Fear, to a great extent, is born of a story we tell ourselves. And so I chose to tell myself a different story from the one women are told. I decided I was safe, I was strong, I was brave. Nothing could vanquish me. The Pacific Crest Trail always feels like home to me. No matter how long I've been away, just like home is, right? When you go back, you feel that sense of belonging, that sense of recognition and familiarity.
The Pacific Crest Trail was Cheryl Strayed's home for 3 months when she was 26. Her wildly successful book, Wild, recounts her solo 1,100-mile hike.
Wild is printed in like 39 or 40 languages, and that completely blows me away.
I read this and was so excited about it, I said, I have to bring back the book club.
The whole Oprah chapter of my life is it's as thrilling as you can imagine. It felt exciting and fun.
Because I can't keep it to myself.
And unbelievable.
I need to tell everybody I know about this book and to know that it actually happened. It's not a novel.
That's right. The troubles I faced down on the PCT were really the troubles that came to the fore of my life when my mom died about 3 years before I began hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. My mother was 45 when she died very suddenly of lung cancer. My biological father had been abusive and threatening and not even in my life after about the age of 6. So my mother was the taproot of my life. I couldn't essentially bear how much pain I was in, how confused and lost I felt. And so I did what a lot of people do with pain of that magnitude, is I really turned that inward, and I began using heroin. That's where I was at that very bottom moment when I had decided that I had to hike this trail. This is a monster. It was big and it was painful. I thought, well, maybe this is just what backpacking is like. You know, in retrospect, I needed to carry that heavy weight. I needed to carry the weight that I couldn't bear. What if I forgave myself? What if I was sorry, but if I could go back in time, I wouldn't do anything differently than I had done? What if I'd actually wanted to sleep with every one of those men? What if heroin taught me something? What if what made me do all those things everyone thought I shouldn't have done was what also had got me here? What if I was never redeemed? What if I already was? I did that thing that artists have done throughout all time and said, here's the thing I know. Here's a truth I want to share. Here's my pain. Here's my heart. I'm going to share it with you in hopes that you will see yourself in it.
For me, it's the role of a lifetime, and it's a gift I'll never be able to repay Cheryl for. That to play a woman like this, a dynamic character who, you know, ends the film with no man, no money, no parents, no job, and it's a happy ending, is truly a singular thing in the movie business. It's something I've never seen before.
Don't even start with that.
Reese Witherspoon earned an Oscar nomination for her performance in the film adaptation of Wild. So did Laura Dern, who played Cheryl's mom, Bobby.
There are so many great parts about making the movie. Like, they wanted me to show them the backpack and the clothes I wore, and they really wanted to make it realistic. The director asked me, show Reese, like, what did you do? I felt embarrassed. You know, I felt like, in some ways, the way I felt on day one, where it's like, okay, I have to get this pack up. I can't get this pack up.
Yeah. Okay, action mode.
Words escape how to describe this feeling of some of the most amazing moments of your life being reenacted. Watching that scene where Reese is on the side of the mountain and she takes off her boot and the boot goes over the edge. And then, just like me, she throws the other one over the edge too. And she gives us that primal scream. I love that moment. It's about the way that we are savages in the end, in the most important things, when we give birth, when we make love, when we lose somebody who we think we can't live without. I grew up in Minnesota. I grew up in the wilderness. I grew up in a house that didn't have electricity or indoor plumbing or running water. And I always dreamed of being a writer. I was a voracious reader, loved books. I applied for college and went to 2 colleges in the Twin Cities. What I decided is the best way to pursue that path was simply to write and to read as much as I could and to apprentice myself to the craft of writing. And so that's what I did. I got jobs as a waitress in various places. I worked as a political organizer. I essentially made money any way I could, all in support of my writing career. I'm very much a binge writer. My very mundane and ordinary and very often hectic life is I write when I can. I write when I must. I write when I have a deadline. And I write in the moments that nobody's in the house. When I was writing Wild and my kids were really little, it was impossible to have solitude. And so Brian would stay home with the kids alone, and I would check into whatever hotel in Portland I could find some deal on. I would just go and write. Usually I would do 2 nights, 48 hours, and I would do nothing but write.
Wild was released in 2012, about 17 years after Cheryl's hike.
I was traveling on my book tour, and my husband texted me and said, our rent check bounced. The book was selling really well, but you don't get paid for many months when you publish a book. I do know that we were like $85,000 in credit card debt, okay? Also, both my husband and I had student loans that we were still paying off. I started writing the Dear Sugar column when I had just finished the first draft of Wild. I was asked to write this advice column for a website called The Rumpus, and it paid nothing. It was anonymous, so I wouldn't even get credit for it. And at the time, I thought, this is insane. And yet something inside of me sparked. When nobody's paying you, you're not working for anyone. And that's a very liberating experience. I decided to take the Dear Sugar column really seriously and to give it the full force of my humanity and to really make them literary pieces.
In one powerful letter, Sugar consoles a man who's distraught that his 22-year-old son was killed by a drunk driver.
It is impossible for you to go on as you were before, so you must go on as you never have. The strange and painful truth is that I'm a better person because I lost my mom young. When you say you experience my writing as sacred, what you're touching is the divine place within me that is my mother. Sugar is the temple I built in my obliterated place. My grief taught me things. Tiny Beautiful Things came out like 4 months after Wild.
The book compiles highlights of Cheryl's Dear Sugar letters. Her advice is filled with love, wit, and fierce honesty.
I got an email from a man named Thomas Cale, and he said, I'm a theater director. I love your book. I think this could be a really interesting play.
Dear Sugar, where are you?
Dear Sugar, why aren't you answering me?
Dear Sugar, my
Thomas Cale is best known as the director of Hamilton. It's been in so many theaters across the United States, but also in other countries. It's been a thrill. Okay, guys, everyone needs a pumpkin and everyone needs a knife or some implement. I feel really lucky that I had that grounded sense of who I was as an artist. We went from qualifying for food stamps, which we didn't apply for because having grown up using food stamps, I just felt too much shame. But pretty much overnight, this thing happened, and then suddenly we had a kind of stability that we never dreamed we'd have. I mean, this house we bought outright from the book sales of Wild. If you pay in cash, they don't own you. They can't take it away from you. Let's see. Oh, I love it. It's great.
Brave Enough is Cheryl's 3rd national bestseller. It's a collection of her inspirational quotes that her fans share on the internet.
People were sending me photographs of tattoos, my lines tattooed on their arm or whatnot.
What is that like?
It's amazing. It's really an honor.
I'm working on my next book, which is a memoir. I think of myself as a very intuitive writer. I never know where anything's going to go until I write it. And I don't talk about a book until it's done. As a writer, when you're turning life into art, you have to dig deeper. It is about excavating, digging for the truth. I visited their grave. All of my relatives lived very difficult lives. The women were chambermaids and the men were coal miners and laborers. I've uncovered so many secrets. When I do think about ancestry, I immediately think about story. One of my favorite days on the set is when we shot what's the final scene in the film, and that's at the Bridge of the Gods.
The night couldn't be better.
I was there with my family, my son Carver, my daughter Bobby, my husband Brian. My daughter, of course, was in the film. She played the young me. But what a lot of people don't know is that my husband and my son were also in the film. On the day that we shot at the Bridge of the Gods, a car drives from the toll booth, and the driver and the boy wave at Reese, and that's Brian and Carver. I was absolutely moved to tears watching that, because that's when I realized this trail brought me to my family.